line. He's in my line. Jeez, he's got me dancing around in circles. Look at my line. He's off. He's off. He's off. He's okay.
He's right here. He's right here.
Is he?
Oh, he's right here.
He broke me off.
He's right here.
Okay, hold on.
Look at that. Look at that thing.
Where'd he go?
He's right there. You see his fin?
I don't see him. What's up, guys? This is Seth from Dark Waters Fly Shop doing part 3 of Midwest mousing tutorial. And today we're gonna wrap things up, hopefully. What we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna give you a run through from start to finish on the whole process of what we do when we go mousing. First, let's start off with the flies that we're choosing. I've talked to you a little bit about some of the flies that I use by now, as you've seen a bunch of the different pictures. You've seen different things take place. You know that one of my favorite flies to use is gonna be a zoo cougar. All right, here's a zoo cougar for you. You can go ahead and check that out. This one has a particularly large head. Kelly Gallup is the guy that made these. This is marabou on the back. And the reason why I like this fly, and the reason why I would choose any other fly, even the specific ones that I tie for mousing, is gonna be the slick profile that this fly gets when it gets wet. My personal opinion is that you're gonna get the most hookups when the rear part of the hook is exposed the most. A lot of mouse patterns that you're gonna see out there, depending on who tied them and depending on what's taking place, they're gonna have a lot of bulk. They're gonna have a lot of bulk around the rear section of the hook, and in my opinion, that's bad. These zoo cougars are great because when this gets wet, now that's wet. And you can see when this is wet, the back part of that hook is completely exposed. And so when the fish hits this, that hook's going right into its jaw. So my personal favorite, the zoo cougar. Big head, and that's gonna pop. We're gonna talk about the popping action in just a second. Second favorite fly. This is one of my custom ties that I do. I use a howitzer, a small size howitzer head. It's articulated. The Davy Jones. All right, and I've got videos on this YouTube channel that will show you how to tie this. The reason why I like this is, one, because it's got a popper head on it. That's the dinner bell. You ring the dinner bell when you pop the fly on the water for these trout. My favorite part about this fly is as it's articulated, that rear hook hangs down in the water, and when that fish comes up to hit it, the first thing that it's taking is that rear hook right in the mouth. The other reason why I like it is because a lot of mouse patterns have long streamer hook style shanks, and all that does is create more leverage for that fish to get off. When you have an articulated hook in a fish's mouth, no matter which way that thing turns, the hook goes with it, and so you're gonna get a lot less chance of losing that fish. There's tons of other options out there. As you look around the internet, you're gonna find different patterns that people tie that are either poppers or they're mice. The Master Splinter here is a very popular one. The main thing, my main opinion in any fly that you choose, is that hook has to be exposed. So many times we're tying stuff all around, and you have to realize that these fish, they're limited in their vision as well. So when they go up on that fly, sometimes they miss it. I've heard guys say that when you're mousing, that you typically will only hook like 1 in 10 of the fish that swing for your fly. I find that to be completely inaccurate when I'm using a zoo cougar or that Davy Jones pattern because of how exposed that rear hook is. I've also tried tying flies with stinger hooks and stuff. I haven't seen any increase in hookup ratios, but I just figured that I'd show you my arsenal of flies, and you guys could be willing to check that out. All right, moving on to rods. I use a 5-weight rod, sometimes a 6-weight rod, but when I'm going mousing at night, I'm going for bigger fish. And so typically I'm not gonna chance it using a 3-weight or a 4-weight. I want something that I can move that fish with as soon as I get a hook up. In part 2, I did explain to you the leader setup that I use. Aquatico's Invisiswivel inline, and I'll be really honest with you guys, some of you guys might freak when you hear me do this. I tie about 3 to 4 feet of 20-pound monofilament. I put that 25-pound swivel in line, and then I tie about another 2 feet of 12 to 15-pound monofilament, and then I go straight to my fly. I don't have to worry about these trout seeing the leader at night. The leader is very short. And the reason why that is because I want to be able to reel my line up as far as I can to net that fish without my leader going into the eyelet of my rod, because I don't want to have to sit there and mess with that at night. And the other reason why I do it is because it's so strong, so that when I hook that fish, again, if it goes down for the logs, I can horse that thing out and get it right out and right into my net, get the picture, get the fish off, and then it's on its way. All right, let's move on to how we're fishing these rivers and the types of casts and the type of wading that we're doing. I'm not sure what your experience is, but mine, wading downstream and fishing downstream, swinging these patterns, is not very successful, at least in the rivers that I'm fishing. I might have a couple different rises in the evening. You know, every once in a while when I'm fishing upstream, yeah, I'll let my fly dangle downstream a little bit and see what happens. And every once in a while I'll hook up with a fish. But my hookup ratios and my fish percentages go way up when I'm fishing upstream. Now, with the types of casts that I use, it does make it a little bit more complicated, because as you heard me say in the last video, I use a lot of water load casting so that I'm not doing false casts, chancing my tangle percentages going up. I will cast forward and I do a reach cast. You can Google reach cast, you can YouTube it, whatever you want to do. The most important thing is that as soon as that popper, mouse pattern, whatever you're using, hits the water, your line has to be perfectly straight and you have to have a direct connection to it so you can pop it. The most important thing in these Midwest streams is those fish rely on that vibration, that sound, that pulse that it makes in the water to identify what they're going to eat. As soon as my fly hits the water, I've got a tight connection and I'm gonna do a strip set to pop that thing. Make it go bloop in the water. We call that ringing the dinner bell. As soon as that fly pops in the water, all I'm doing is bringing in the slack as it drifts back downstream toward me. The whole time listening for a take. Usually when I take people out fishing and I'm trying to teach them that reach cast so that they can get a good pop right away, it takes them, a good half an hour to an hour to really get that cast down. And even when I get out and I start mousing right away in the summer after being inside all winter long, not practicing it, it takes me a little bit to get it back. But once it comes, it's like riding a bike. The last thing that is really important is your hook setting techniques. When you're fishing at night, your hearing is heightened. So when you hear an explosive take, your tendency immediately is to get that rod tip up in the air and to set that hook as hard as you can. Not what you're supposed to do. I fish with guys all the time that we're missing fish constantly. What I tend to do is when I hear that take, I wait a split second and then I slowly strip line and then raise the tip of my rod. And as soon as I feel tension, then I set. Sometimes it's really hard to break that habit of just setting the hook as hard as you can when you hear a take, especially takes that are as large and as loud as the ones at night when these fish are feeding on mice. The other advantage to fishing upstream, I find, is that when I set the hook on these fish, it's really easy to get them to come back downstream toward me to net them. Typically, if you're fishing downstream and you hook a fish, now you've got to bring them up current, and it's a lot harder to do. There's rarely a moment when I hook a fish mousing and it takes me longer than a minute to 2 minutes to get it in my net. All right, guys, so there you have it. Start to finish, the flies that we use, the techniques that we're using for casting, the rod weights and sizes. You can feel free to experiment with this. If you've got any other tips for me, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And you never know, I might get some more ideas and some more information that I can throw out another video for you guys as well. So make sure you hit subscribe so that you'll get notified when that video pops up. Until next time, see you guys later. All right, that should do it.